Hello everyone, it's Rachel here at Claddy Hands Crafts. Today I am making a tall pocket cum belly band cum flip out thing. There's a lot going on with this one. It's a way to add more interactive interest to a page. I'm starting by making a long narrow journal card, or tag if you like, because it does have a string pull by the end of the video. I started with this because the rest of the elements are going to be made to fit around it, around this initial feature. I always find it easier to build around a smaller starting point rather than starting with something big and trying to make everything else fit within the boundaries. I cut the journal card to the desired size, and it was made from a scrap of craft card, and then I mounted that onto a scrap of tea-stained lined paper that was left over from experimenting with my last project. The paper was quite thin, so the glue showed through a bit, but when I started inking the edges, those glue splodges started looking more grungy, and that's the look that I'm going for with this particular journal, so I was fine with that being in the design. I just used scissors to trim the excess lined paper off of the edges. I had made a plan to make sure that I was posting twice a week, every week until September, as a sort of challenge to myself to find out if it makes a difference to the level of success of my channel. But of course, shortly after I made that plan, my son got poorly, and so I had to take some time off work. I ended up missing one upload last week, so I'm hoping to make up for it this week by uploading 3 times, so that might be a challenge. My son is fine now. He had a 24-hour sickness bug, but he had to take an extra 48 hours off school afterwards, so at least we got some time to enjoy the sunshine while it was here. I used a Crocodile Big Bite to punch a hole in the top of the tag, but I punched it a little off centre. I was able to rectify it by using a slightly larger hole punch and moving it closer to the middle. It would have irritated me if I'd have left it off to one side. I took a sheet of thick design paper and measured it against the narrow tag and established how wide I wanted the pocket for it to be. I wanted to make the pocket the full height of the page, but I didn't want it to take up the full width. So I marked it just slightly larger, width-wise, ensuring there would be enough leeway to easily slide the tag in and out. As the design paper I was using happened to be folded, I was able to cut 2 pieces at one time. You will need 2 to make the back of the pocket and the front. Doing it this way means we can create the belly band feature behind. I inked the edges to get them looking more grungy, and I clipped a thumb notch into what would be the top piece only, to make it clear that tags should be inserted between the 2 layers. I glued the front piece onto the back piece, applying the glue to the bottom edge and the 2 side edges. I aligned the front and back carefully before sticking, and I smoothed them down to create a strong seal between the 2 layers. This is so that the journal cards or tags don't accidentally slip between the 2 layers, causing them to separate. I tested the tag to make sure it would fit inside the pocket before moving on to the next stage of construction. The next part I wanted to make was a tabbed flip out. I used a pre-folded piece of design card and cut about 1 centimetre to the left of the fold line. This left me with a hinge and a flap. The narrow section, or the hinge, would fold around to the back of the belly band, allowing the large section to come around to the front. I already had a tuck spot ready, which I intended to put at the bottom of the belly band. I figured I could use that tuck spot to keep the flip out in a closed position. All I needed to do was to cut the flip out to a size that would overlap with the tuck spot. I didn't want to create too much overlap, as that would end up causing damage to the 2 pieces every time they were opened and shut. I overlapped by about 3 millimetres, not very much at all, and when I was happy with the position, I was able to glue them down. I glued the left-hand edge of the tuck spot and the bottom too, and then I glued the narrow hinge to the back of the belly band, closing the flap around to the front while the glue was still wet to make sure that the position was right. I took a folded piece of design paper and used a circle punch to cut a partial circle shape at the folded edge. I then used a smaller punch to clip into the folded edge to give the piece the shape of a wheel-tail tab. I didn't have any kind of scientific method for making these chunks even, I just gauged it by eye. After I had added the ink and tested the tab on the flap, I decided that the curved edge was too large. I attempted to use a circle punch to try and trim the curved edge down, and to my utter disbelief it worked. I wouldn't recommend trying this, you could just make another one. I don't know why I didn't do that, but it did work, and once it was smaller it didn't overpower the flap as much and looked much more at home. I glued the entire inside surface of the tab and positioned it over the edge of the flap. I then decided that I wanted to add a bit of writing space to the inside of that flap, so I grabbed a piece of coffee stained paper and tore it down to a size that would fit comfortably within that surface. To make it fit with the grungy theme, I added a touch of ink which made those edges look like they'd been singed, which was cool. I used my sewing machine to zigzag stitch around the long narrow tag, and I added a piece of jute twine to the hole at the top. Once I was happy with the belly band all together, I stuck it down, adding plenty of glue to the top and the bottom edges. I needed to make sure this stuck down firmly, with it being a heavier piece that would go through lots of human interaction. I placed it off-centre towards the left-hand edge of the page, leaving a gap of around 1 centimetre between the edge and the band. I used some more of the plain craft card to make a large journal card to insert behind the belly band. I kept it simple and just rounded the corners and inked the edges. I knew I wanted to use this journal card to create a bit of interest at the open edge of the journal, so I made another tab and attached it to the left-hand side of the card. This way I was able to pull the journal card over to the left-hand side and have it poking out beyond the edge of the page. I gave everything one last check to make sure it was all stuck properly and that all of the different interactive elements worked. And then I realised that I needed something for the tuck spot, so I just folded up a little piece of notepaper and tucked it into that spot. If you enjoyed this project, please subscribe to my channel, as I'll be posting more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye!